Today, I want to remind you that our story is not over yet. As long as we wake up with breath in our lungs, your purpose can remain the same and guide you through the best times and the most difficult times. The journey hasn't been without struggle. I've faced deep personal loss, wrestled to grow in humility and vulnerability, and endured academic challenges that tested both my confidence and my faith. I have faced significant challenges with my neurology clerkship exam. I have taken it 3 times, and as of 2 weeks ago, failed all 3. And yet here I am, still breathing, still walking in purpose, and still writing a story that isn't finished. I am forced to remember that the creator of heaven and earth called me, little old me, in the middle of a biology exam to become a physician. What is your purpose? What have you already survived that's shaping your future? Will you give up in the valley or walk THROUGH through it, knowing your story isn't over yet?
And honestly, it's a blessing to be in this space and to be amongst you all. I'm very excited and happy to be a part of this moment. I'm gonna get into it, but you're not gonna realize it in the moment, but years later, you're gonna look back on this moment and be like, wow, it was so pivotal. But anyway, I can get into my speech.
I am one example of the representation we all hope to see more in the healthcare space. When I walk into a patient's room in underserved communities, they instantly appreciate my richly melanated skin, my coarse locks, the sound of my voice, and my ability to connect with them because of our shared identity. Our differences are our superpower. Our struggles become our strength. If you have ever thought, maybe this isn't for me, maybe I'm not enough, maybe I don't have what it takes, my story is for you. I've been there, and the truth is, our story is not over yet. I say this because I do not look like what I've been through or even what I'm currently going through. Some quick housekeeping. I am an SMDEP 2016 alum, now known as SHPEP, and I am speaking in place of Melanie, who is a part of my 2016 SMDEP cohort. Just to speak to the power of SHPEP, 5 people from my 2016 cohort have matriculated into professional school at UCLA. Brandon, who is part of the Drew UCLA Medical Education Program, Melanie and Danny, who are UCLA Prime LA, Christina, who graduated from UCLA Dental and is now pursuing facial surgery at the University of Michigan, and myself. We are a unique and diverse bunch. But SHPEP gave us all the space to grow, to believe, and to rise. Not to mention many others who have pursued health professional education at other universities. I say this so that you keep in mind, as I tell my story, that you can walk in your purpose too, regardless of the obstacles you face. Today, I want to remind you that our story is not over yet. And I believe that as long as we wake up with breath in our lungs, adversity will come, life will hit, but your purpose can remain the same and guide you through the best times and the most difficult times. I want to take you back to the summer a year prior to me starting SMDEP. I just finished my freshman year as a pre-kinesiology student at the University of Wisconsin and headed back home to the Los Angeles area. Here, I worked alongside athletic trainers at the Drew League and various sports events in the LA area. At the time, I figured I would pursue a career as an athletic trainer. But I quickly realized this career wasn't for me because the job consisted of too much idle time. Unfortunately, as a trainer, you are waiting for an injury to happen to spring into action. As I wrapped up my summer and looked ahead to starting school back up at Wisconsin, I knew I had to take biology so that I could apply to kinesiology at the end of my sophomore year. During the fall semester of 2015, I often spent my days sitting in a hot and sweaty lecture hall on the top of Bascom Hill, and my evenings reading my biology textbook in Memorial Library. I remember one day, I was reading my biology textbook like a fine piece of literature and lost track of time. At this moment, I could sense something momentous was there, but I didn't think much of it. When the first biology midterm came, I remember sitting down and filling out my Scantron, and all I could hear in my head throughout the test was the affirmation, "You're gonna be a doctor, you're gonna be a doctor." There I was in the middle of an exam, just bopping my head like I was in between sets at the gym, listening to my hype song, locked in rhythm, letting the words hit. And before I knew it, I had finished my test. I looked around the room, and I was the first person to have finished the test. I handed it to the professor on the way out. He took my Scantron and sniffed it like a fresh batch of chocolate chip cookies out of the oven and said, "Smells like an A." Now, as you can imagine, I'm borderline shaking because I feel like I just had a divine experience. The test results came out a few days later, and I got a 96% on the test. I immediately called my older brother, telling him everything, and I said, "I think I'm gonna be a doctor." He responds, "Thousands of people become doctors every year. Why can't you be one of them?" In the next few months, I made that my new mission, and I discovered SMDEP, now SHPEP, from the Alpha Fraternity Brothers on campus and applied to it. Even when it feels unfamiliar, our story is not over yet. Fast forward to the following summer. I remember moving into the UCLA dorms that summer and loving every minute of SMDEP, besides the tedious reading times with Dr. Doyle. Rest in peace to his loving soul. He was amazing. I just wasn't sold on reading at the time. SMDEP sparked something in me. I began to realize that medicine wasn't just about science. It was about people. It gave me my first real glimpse of how becoming a physician could allow me to live out my purpose, to advocate, to serve, and to bring healing to overlooked communities like the one I come from. I remember being one of the older students in the program, and as I began to learn about the rigorous journey to become a medical student, which included the MCAT, a competitive GPA, difficult prerequisite classes, I often thought, how is this even going to be possible for me? I'm already halfway through undergrad. However, as I anxiously sat down with one of the SMDP directors for my academic check-in, to my surprise, she said, "If you keep on doing what you're doing and get a good MCAT score, you could come to UCLA for medical school." I remember the relief. I had thought UCLA was out of reach, but surely if UCLA would take me, then I can get into medical school somewhere, and that gave me a lot of hope. Even when the doubt creeps in, our story is not over yet. Upon graduation, I realized I need to take some gap years to focus on the missing piece of my application, my MCAT score. I had already taken it once before graduation, and it didn't go as well as I wanted, so I took it another time the following year. I had slightly improved, but not enough. I talked to an advisor in another summer program I was enrolled in at the time, and I realized that I could probably get into medical school somewhere, but I likely wouldn't be able to get accepted into schools in my home state of California. At this point, I had already been spending my gap year in Southern California after my time in Wisconsin, and I was over the Midwest. So I decided to be all money in on a third attempt at the MCAT. I endured 8 long months of studying for this exam. I only planned to study for 6 months, but a mentor of mine, a UCLA med student at the time, was like, "Push the exam back, bro. You are just starting to make some great strides in your score, and you are building a momentum. Honestly, if you shoot for a higher score, you should be able to get a scholarship at UCLA." It was a tough pill to swallow, but I pushed my test date back an additional 2 months. I exceeded the mark I needed, and my mentor already told me congratulations on the scholarship, predicting my future. About a year later, I heard the words from my prime director, Dr. Moreno, that I had received the David Geffen Scholarship. This is a 4-year, full tuition, merit-based scholarship that includes a living stipend of about $40,000 per year. Even when we fall short, our story is not over yet. Soon, the excitement wore off and the grind of med school began. I had barely made it through year 1, our only preclinical year, and I was headed into clerkships in my 2nd year. I remember my first clerkship was at Long Beach Memorial in pediatrics, the same hospital I was born at. A full circle moment. And because my parents still lived in Long Beach, I decided to move home for the month to spend time with my family and truncate my commute. I remember having a long conversation with my mother and father in the kitchen the night before I went to bed, November 16th, 2022. I had told them I was headed off to bed because I had to be awake early. I climbed into my childhood bed, set my alarm, and went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up to the hysterical screaming and crying of my mother, who sounded like she just lost everything. As I followed my mom into her bedroom to see what the commotion was about, I found my dad lying on the floor, motionless. He appeared pale and blue. His skin was cold. His breathing had stopped, and he was without a pulse. I proceeded to do chest compressions, but when emergency services arrived, they pronounced him dead. Even when we lose someone or something we love, our story is not over yet. I took a few months off from school after this immense loss, but with my eyes set on my career, I continued to push forward. Since then, I have suffered 2 additional close losses, one of my best friends and his father. Over the past year, my compounded grief has drawn me closer to my Father in heaven, and I continue to push forward. Now I stand in front of you with 3 years of medical school completed and 1 year of my MBA completed. I have 1 year of each degree program left until my anticipated graduation date of 2027. However, the journey hasn't been without struggle. I've faced deep personal loss, wrestled to grow in humility and vulnerability, and endured academic challenges that tested both my confidence and my faith. I have faced significant challenges with my neurology clerkship exam. I have taken it 3 times, and as of 2 weeks ago, failed all 3. Now, I must go on to repeat the clerkship, which means logging the same 60-hour weeks for 4 weeks in a row in a field that I have limited interest in. Then, after that, retake the exam, knowing that if I do not pass this fourth time, I can be dismissed from medical school. I feel shocked because I felt the most prepared for this exam than any other clerkship exam that I have ever taken. I am angry that I prayed to pass the exam, but when I went to start my exam, the strikeout tool on the exam was not working. I feel grief because I feel like I wasted 6 weeks studying for this last exam, and I wasted an exam attempt. I am embarrassed because for 4 weeks, I have to explain to my peers, residents, and attending physicians that I am not a second year, but a third year med student who is repeating his clerkship. Not to mention that because I am getting my MBA, my peers, who I started medical school with in 2021, may be some of the same residents I have to explain my struggles to. And I am terrified because this has been my dream for the past 9 years. Since I was sitting in your shoes, and I feel like this can all be taken away. As I crafted this speech, it struck me that this is divine intervention, that God chose me to deliver this speech to you today. Melanie was called to be somewhere else at this time, and y'all have been stuck with me for the last 12 minutes. There I was, just days ago, typing this speech with shaky hands on a $2,000 MacBook Pro, graciously funded by David Geffen, reflecting on the very story I am now standing here sharing with you. I have been forced to recall all the times God brought me through trials and tribulations. I am forced to remember that the creator of heaven and earth called me, little old me, in the middle of a biology exam to become a physician. I share this with you because I've made it through storms and setbacks, and yet here I am, still breathing, still walking in purpose, and still writing a story that isn't finished. And for me, that's only because Jesus is Lord, and God, the great I am, never stopped calling me, even when I couldn't hear him. As I wrap up my speech today, I pose these questions to you. As you move along your journeys, please take the time to remember these questions and answer them boldly and vulnerably. 1. What is your purpose? 2. What have you already survived that's shaping your future? 3. Will you give up in the valley or walk THROUGH through it, knowing your story isn't over yet? Congratulations on accomplishing one more step in your journey. God bless you all. Thank you for your time, and remember, our story is not over yet.